I'm Dennis, 50 male. I used to own a successful plumbing supply business. Now I rent a tiny office above a hardware store, and my main asset is a 15-year-old truck with a check engine light that's been on since last spring. This story is about how I lost everything I'd ever built, only to discover that the one person who truly believed in me had left me a roadmap to get it all back, right when I needed it most. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. My 50th birthday started at 2:00 p.m. in a Shell station. I was staring at the sad little pastry display, trying to decide which prepackaged cupcake screamed rock bottom the least. I settled on a chocolate one with stiff, waxy frosting for 99 cents. I paid for it with quarters I'd scrounged from under my truck's floor mat. Back in my tiny, rented office, I stuck a single candle in it, not because I was one, but because the gas station didn't sell number candles. I managed to find a 5 and a 0 at a party store, but they cost more than the cupcake, so I just grabbed a box of regulars. I lit the candle, the tiny flame reflecting in my dark computer monitor. I sang happy birthday to myself in a whisper. It felt pathetic, but some traditions, even the sad ones, feel necessary. I was just about to blow out the candle when the office door opened and the smell of expensive perfume cut through the dusty air. It was my wife Renata, or I guess my soon-to-be ex-wife. She wasn't alone. Beside her stood a man in a suit so sharp it could have cut glass. He had the dead, patient eyes of a vulture. "Dennis, are you even listening?" Renata snapped. I realized she'd been talking. I'd been lost, staring at a framed photo on my desk. It was from 2 years ago, a lifetime ago at Niagara Falls. Me, Renata, and our daughter, Meredith, all of us laughing, bundled in those ridiculous yellow ponchos. We looked so happy. We looked like a family that had everything. Now Renata stood there in $300 yoga pants, her expression cold enough to freeze water. She looked at me, then at the cupcake, and her lip curled in a way that was half pity, half disgust. The man beside her, her lawyer, just stared, his briefcase held in front of him like a shield. "I said I hope you're not going to make this difficult," she repeated. I finally looked up from the photo. "Make what difficult, Renata's?" She nodded to the lawyer, who stepped forward and placed a thick stack of documents on my desk. He pushed them right through the cupcake, leaving a smear of chocolate frosting across the top page. "Happy birthday, Dennis," she said, her voice devoid of any emotion. "I'm divorcing you." I stared at the brown frosting smeared over the words, "Petition for dissolution of marriage." "Good," Renata said, misinterpreting my stunned silence as agreement. "Then you'll sign these without a scene." Her lawyer Dutton spoke for the first time. His voice was smooth as oil. "Mr. Talbot, your wife is being quite generous, all things considered." "Generous," I finally said. My voice was hoarse. "She's taking everything." "I'm taking what I'm entitled to," Renata corrected, suddenly fascinated by her manicure. 22 years, Dennis, I supported your dreams. I waited for next year. Next year we'd travel. Next year you'd work less. Next year we'd matter more than inventory spreadsheets." She finally met my eyes, her own filled with a cold fury. "Well, next year never came, and now you're broke, you're old, you're nothing to me anymore." Broke, old, nothing. The words hung in the air, sharper than any knife. "I'm taking the house, Dennis," she continued, rattling off the list. "The cars, what's left of the business assets, and Meredith is living with me full-time." That was the blow that finally knocked the wind out of me. "Meredith, did you even ask her?" "She doesn't want to live with you," Renata said, checking her watch. "She's embarrassed by you. Her friends ask why her dad went from owning 5 stores to living in a room above a hardware shop. What am I supposed to tell them? The truth." I wanted to scream the truth. I wanted to tell her I'd spent every dime fighting a fraudulent lawsuit to protect our name, that I'd been sued by 12 homeowners claiming my pipes were faulty, only to discover the contractor had used the wrong materials. I'd fought it and I'd won. The judge had declared me 100% innocent. But winning cost me $1.4 million in legal fees. I'd sold the stores. I'd mortgaged the house. I drained our retirement to prove I was an honest man, and in the process I'd lost everything else. But I didn't say any of it. What was the point? When your wife looks at you like you're something she scraped off her shoe, being right doesn't matter. "Just sign the papers, Dennis," Renata said. Walking to the door, "My lawyer will be in touch." She paused, her hand on the knob. "Oh, and happy birthday. I'd say I hope it's a good one, but we both know those days are behind you now." The door clicked shut, and the silence that followed was deafening. I sat there for hours, the 99-cent cupcake staring at me, a pathetic monument to the end of my life. It was 2:00 a.m. when I finally moved. The streetlights outside cast long, lonely shadows across my office. My eyes drifted to the corner, to something I hadn't thought about in years, a worn leather briefcase. It had belonged to Frank Ostracki. Frank was the man who'd saved my life. He was a Polish immigrant who'd found me at 19, angry and going nowhere after my own dad drank himself into an early grave. Frank owned a small industrial supply shop. He took me under his wing, taught me everything. Business is like plumbing, Dennis, he'd say in his thick accent. Everything must flow correct direction or whole system backs up. He'd given me the $50,000 to start my own business. Not loan, he'd insisted. Investment, you pay me back by becoming success. Frank died of lung cancer in 2009. In the hospital, he'd pressed this old briefcase into my hands. His were skeletal, but his grip was strong. When you need most, he'd wheezed. You will know, promise me, Dennis, don't open until then. I'd promised, and for 14 years the briefcase sat in my office gathering dust. I'd become the success he wanted me to be. I'd built an empire. I never needed it most. Until tonight. Staring at the divorce papers at the ruins of my 50th birthday, I heard Frank's voice as clearly as if he were in the room. This, Dennis, this is when you need it. My hands trembled as I pulled the briefcase onto my desk. The brass clasps were tarnished, but they snapped open with a satisfying click. The inside smelled like old paper and pipe tobacco. There was no treasure, no stacks of cash. Just a single yellowed envelope with my name on it, written in Frank's careful, angular handwriting. I opened it. The letter was short, written on hotel stationery. Dennis, my boy. If you're reading this, life has knocked you down. Good, the ground is where we learn to stand. When your life falls apart, go to locker 243 at Union Station in Cleveland. The key is taped under the briefcase lining. Trust no one with this. Go alone. Remember what I taught you. Sometimes God closes every door so you'll finally notice the window. Frank. My heart hammered against my ribs. I turned the briefcase over and felt along the lining. Sure enough, my fingers found a small bump. I peeled back the brittle tape and a small brass key fell into my palm. Etched into it was the number 243. Cleveland was 4 hours away. I had maybe $40 in my wallet and a quarter tank of gas, but it didn't matter. For the first time in months, I felt something other than despair. I felt a flicker of hope. I called my brother Colton at 3:00 a.m. He picked up on the fifth ring, his voice instantly alert. Dennis, what's wrong? Is it Mom? No, everyone's fine. I need a favor. I need to borrow your truck. And maybe $200. There was a long pause. It's 3 in the morning, man. I know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't. It's about Frank. Something he left me. I have to go to Cleveland right now. Colton was the kind of guy who'd borrow your tools and never return them, but he was also the only person who'd ever tried to warn me about Renata. He'd seen her getting cozy with her personal trainer months ago, but I hadn't listened. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said and hung up. He showed up with his F-150, a full tank of gas and $250 in cash. He didn't ask questions. He just handed me the keys and said, whatever this is, I hope it helps. The drive to Cleveland was a blur of dark highways and bad coffee. I watched the sunrise paint the Ohio farmland and I thought about Frank. He'd escaped communist Poland in a shipping container. America saved my life, he'd told me. Here, nobody care if my English is broken. They care only, can you work? Are you man of your word? You have both, Dennis. That's why you succeed. But I hadn't succeeded. I was a 50-year-old failure driving a borrowed truck to chase a ghost's last wish. I pulled into Union Station just after 9:00 a.m. I found the storage manager, a man in his 60s named Eugene, in a dusty basement office. He looked at my key, then at me, then pulled out a massive leather-bound ledger. He ran his finger down a page. Locker 243, well, I'll be, he muttered, says here it was paid for in October 2009, 40 years in advance, cash. He looked up at me over his glasses. Got ID. I gave him my license. He studied it, then the ledger. Dennis Talbot, you're the only person authorized to open it. He grabbed a keyring from the wall. Follow me, and son, whatever's in there, someone wanted to make damn sure you were the only one to find it. He led me through a maze of concrete corridors to a section of the station that looked like it hadn't been touched since 1940. He put his master key in the lock, then nodded at me. I inserted Frank's key. The lock turned smoothly like it had just been oiled. The heavy metal door swung open with a quiet hiss. Eugene whistled, "Jesus Christ." I just stared, my knees buckling. Inside the locker were three neat stacks. My resurrection waiting 14 years for me to be broken enough to find it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely pick up the first item. It was a stack of bearer bonds, the old-fashioned kind you only see in movies. A note on top in Frank's handwriting read, "My real savings, the IRS never knew, now yours, approx. $2.8 million. Go to First Ohio Bank. Ask for Walter Kowalski, he knows." I felt lightheaded. $2.8 million. It was more money than I'd ever seen. The second item was a thick manila folder. The label read, "Talbot Plumbing Supply." But the incorporation date was 1998, 3 years before I'd even started my company. I opened it. It was articles of incorporation for a company in Delaware, with my name as the sole owner and Frank as the registered agent. A sticky note on the first page said, "Check the patent filing." I flipped through the pages until I found it. A patent filed in 2001 for a method and system for copper pipe joint reinforcement. The inventor was listed as Dennis M. Talbot. I sank against the wall. I remembered it. Back in 2000, I'd shown Frank a new way I'd developed to reinforce joints, making them 70% less likely to fail. He'd gotten excited, made me write it down. I'd forgotten all about it. Frank hadn't. A second note was attached. "Every major manufacturer uses your method now. Patent infringement settlements waiting at Brennan and Associates. Mr. Brennan expects you." The third item was what finally broke me. It was a simple white envelope with "For Meredith" written on it. Inside was a letter dated 1 week before Frank died. "Sweet Meredith," it read, "you're only 6 now, but someday you'll read this. Your father is the finest man I've known, not because he never fails, but because he never quits. If he ever seems lost, remind him. The measure of a man isn't in never falling, but in how he rises." Behind the letter was a savings bond for $100,000 in her name, maturable on her 18th birthday, with a note, "For your education. But only if you have reconciled with your father." At the bottom of the locker was a small leather journal, Frank's journal. I opened to a random page from 2008. "Dennis will lose everything someday, all successful men do. When it happens, he'll think he's failed. Failure is just education. I am preparing his resurrection before his crucifixion. He won't ask for help. He'll think he needs to earn it. He already has. Your friend," Eugene said quietly, helping me pack everything into a box. "He must have loved you something fierce." "He did," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. "I just never knew how much." Frank had taught me that patience was the difference between being rich and being wealthy. I didn't rush. I didn't call Renata. My first call was to Burton Cromwell, the most ruthless, expensive divorce attorney in the state. His retainer was $50,000. I paid it by cashing the first bearer bond. Cromwell listened to my story, his face impassive. When I finished, he steepled his fingers. "Mr. Talbot, your wife has been planning this for a very long time. She's been hiding assets, but she made a mistake." He slid a file across his desk. "This is Bryce Hoffman, her personal trainer. They purchased a condo together 6 months ago using funds from a joint account she'd hidden from you. This isn't just a divorce, Mr. Talbot, it's fraud." My next call was to Thomas Brennan, Frank's lawyer. He'd been waiting 14 years for me to show up. "Frank knew you'd never pursue this," Brennan explained. "So he had me do the groundwork. Every major manufacturer in North America is using your patent. The settlements I've already negotiated are worth $4.2 million. All they need is your signature." I signed the papers and then I waited. 3 weeks later at 11:00 p.m. my phone rang. It was Meredith and she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Dad, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." "Meredith, sweetheart, where are you?" "I'm at Kelsey's. I found emails on Mom's laptop. She's been seeing Bryce for 2 years. She told me you gambled everything away, that you chose the business over us. But Aunt Teresa told me the truth about the lawsuit. You spent everything to prove you were honest. And Mom, Dad, she knew, and she left you on your birthday." "Hey, look at me," I said, my voice thick. "It's okay, you're 16, you believed your mom, that's what kids do. There's nothing to forgive. I'm coming to get you." I picked her up in Colton's truck. The second she saw me, she ran and threw her arms around my neck, sobbing into my shoulder just like she used to when she was 6. The divorce proceedings were short. When Cromwell presented the evidence of Renata's 2-year affair and the hidden condo, the judge was not amused. Renata's lawyer, Dutton, looked like he'd been electrocuted. Renata got the house just like she wanted, but the judge ordered her to buy out my half of its value using the money she'd hidden in her secret accounts. Meredith chose to live with me full-time. The patent settlement money $2 million hit my account on a Tuesday. I used the money from the house buyout to restart my business, but I did it differently this time. One store, manageable hours. I focused on innovation using the very patent Frank had saved for me. 6 months later, on my 51st birthday, I woke up to the smell of burning. Meredith was in the kitchen of our new, smaller apartment making me breakfast. The pancakes were raw in the middle, and the bacon was somehow both black and floppy. It was the best meal I'd ever had. "Happy birthday, Dad," she said, sliding me a card. Inside, she'd written, "Frank told me you were the son he wished he'd had. I get it now. It means he saw in you what I should have seen. That falling down doesn't make you a failure. Giving up does, and you never gave up." Tucked inside the card was the letter Frank had written her, the one from the locker. "I called the lawyer," she said, her eyes shining. "About the education fund. I want to study business, Dad, like you and Grandpa Frank." Today, my office has 2 briefcases. Frank's original sits on a shelf, a place of honor, and on my desk is a new one which I'll give to Meredith when she graduates. Inside, there's a key to locker 244 at Union Station, paid for 40 years in advance. A safety net she'll hopefully never need. I see Renata and Bryce at the grocery store sometimes. We nod like strangers who once knew each other. She was wrong about me. 50 isn't old, it's just the halfway point. Frank's briefcase saved my life, not the money. The money was just paper. What saved me was knowing that someone had believed in me so much he'd planned my resurrection before I'd even fallen. That love, that's the real inheritance. Frank taught me how to build a business, but he also taught me how to get back up. And that's a lesson worth more than all the bearer bonds in the world.